So I'm going to go ahead and record our session because we're going to start on time. But welcome, everybody. Sophia, was your name ever called, or are you too young?
Called for. I missed the first part of the
The romper
conversation.
room. What was the person's name?
Oh, it was a gal, and was it? I can't remember her name.
Okay, right.
Sophia's too young.
Okay,
She
all right.
is,
I
but
don't
It
know.
was a
she's
it
too
was a
young.
television show, and either at the beginning or the end, the person who was the little host, not little host, the host would name the names of people that she allegedly could see out there, and you were
Oh,
so
yeah.
excited when they would name us, and I never got my name either. I'm seeing there are several of us who didn't.
Yeah, I'm sure my name probably wouldn't have been said either.
So I was not alone. So I have 6 p.m. and I've got 2 people in the waiting room. I am flying solo tonight. So and I am not a techie. So if there are glitches, please practice one of our Humanity 101 principles, which is some forgiveness and a little bit of grace, because we're going to try to do this within the hour that I ask for your time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm probably going to ask you to turn your screen and your videos off during this first part, because there are a couple of, well, the first part has one video in it and it works better if our screens are not on. So there will not be a lot of discussion during the first 15, 20 minutes. I just want to bring you up to date on what we've been doing. And then we've got the last part of this and a little bit more for us to sort of chit chat about what we can do together. And if you have any questions. So please, if there are questions about anything that I've presented in the first few minutes, please jot those in the chat, because I will be looking at those. Okay. So I'm waiting for other people to join. So come on in. But I want to share the screen, and I have put some things together because I do think that it helps to kind of see what we've been doing rather than me just trying to tell you. Okay. And we're going to hope that this works. Okay. Let's do it from the beginning. So please let me know that you can actually see the screen. Okay. I'm just assuming that you can.
Certainly can. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
excellent.
I can.
All right. So that's one part. So first of all, let me welcome you and let me thank you for taking this time out of what I know is a very busy time of the year, busy time of the day. But this is both an acknowledgement of your connections to Project Humanity. So while you're sort of getting yourself seated virtually, please tell us where you're joining us from, because we actually have some founders who are out of state. And I'd like to know how you have connected with Project Humanities, just very briefly, as you sign your name and let us know where you're joining us from. All right. The picture that you're seeing there is actually from a recent event on fear of diversity. And it came as a result, in part, of the Supreme Court decision to take race out of affirmative action. We didn't address that directly, but we did address it broadly in terms of fear of difference. And it was not facilitated by me. It was facilitated by the person there in the purple. And I wanted you just to see what I like to think is the diversity of our attendees, our staff, and our overall supporters. Okay. And if you have your audio on, if you could mute that, please, that would be great. All right. Before we get started into the crux of this, we have made it a practice to at least acknowledge in some small way that Project Humanities sits on ancestral lands of Indigenous people, past, present, and future. We do thank and honor Native American tribes of the Salt River Valley, whose stewardship of the land and waterways allows us to be here now. In addition, we honor their continued and many contributions today, and we try to move beyond the land acknowledgement to show that we are listening, we are talking, and we are trying to connect with those who were here long before most of us, if not all of us, were here. For those who may be new to Project Humanities, and there are some new founders that we've had, we have a total of about 122, and those 122 are variously engaged. But I just want to remind those who are here that we have tried to take to heart what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. says in a speech that people really don't talk and think much about, the Other America, we're often just focused on the I Have a Dream, where it says large segments of society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice and humanity. And that is what we are taking to heart when we talk about our Humanity 101. That's what you are, Humanity 101 founders. That means that not only have you invested your time, talent, and treasure, but you're also connected to these principles that are not faith-based, but rather faith in humanity. And that is compassion, empathy, forgiveness, integrity, kindness, respect, and self-reflection. We don't define those for people, but we do try to use those as guides in all of our programming and connecting that very specifically with justice. Just so that you know, Project Humanities for the past 12 years has been awarded some kind of recognition, either me personally or the project, but clearly for the work of the project, if I were awarded something individually. And for this year, because the last time we met was October 22, this is sort of our annual update virtually. And we do it virtually because we have a number of people who are out of state. But I did get an award in March 31st called the Difference Maker Award. And I take no credit for that individually. I try to look at the work that we do collectively, which is what that hand represents, separate as the fingers, yet one as the hand. But it is nice to be acknowledged by the college for the work of Project Humanities, just so that we know that. And then we were also entered into a international contest via the internet, and we received the Bronze Anthem Award. Is the highest honor that recognizes the work that we do to spark social change. So we don't do this work for the awards, but it's nice when people acknowledge that they appreciate and see what we are doing. You know that we do 8 to 12 programs per semester and 4 during the summer. And I just wanted to show you on the screen what our last year has looked like. And you don't necessarily need to read all this, but I just want to show you what we are trying to do to reach different audiences across different communities, professions, and even ages. And if you look on the left-hand side, the spring 2023 events, we leaned into this banned books movement that has sort of taken the country. And we did it on Dr. King's birthday, the evening of, because people tend not to be busy if you've done a service project that morning. So we leaned into that and had a good conversation about banned books. We'll be doing that again. And this time in January, we'll be talking specifically about Dr. King's economic justice ideals. We often talk about content of character. We also leaned into drug addiction, and with a partnership with PBS, looked at Love in the Time of Fentanyl, which was about saving lives, not encouraging people to take drugs. We looked at true crime. I did a partnership with the Baha'i Faith Community Center by facilitating a conversation. We've looked at internalized oppression. We've looked at bathrooms to restrooms and had a really interesting workshop on inclusive bathrooms. Birthing justice, that was everything from the Black women's mortality to midwifery. The summer, when everybody's here in the desert or going to cooler places, we do a podcast virtual conversation. Those are facilitated by a staff member and look at the types of things we've talked about. Accountability in religious communities. Essentially, we choose a podcast, people listen to it, and then they come and discuss for 1 hour virtually. To show you that we're trying to keep our fingers on the pulse, we also did a conversation that was pretty enlightening about bias in AI and Chat GPT. So we are letting nothing escape us in terms of trying to find connections with different communities. The virtual allows us the national and international participation. And then, you know, people are banning drag kings, drag queens. And we thought, well, let's talk about the history of drag itself. And that has been something that we wanted to make sure that we were not shying away from things, but rather leaning into them. And this fall, we've talked about poverty porn, you know, how charities will tell awful, awful stories about people to get people to write checks, but then they write checks and don't think much about whatever that organization or that those individuals need. There was our diversity, fear, and fairness workshop. We did our annual Hacks for Humanity. I'll talk about that later. Some of you on the line were actually at our event called What's in a Name, and that was really provocative for me. And I see one of our newest founders, Bella, is on the line. I teased Bella, who was a former Project Humanities student worker and now is an investor. And I was telling Bella about names and naming, and Bella, because I never find my name, which is NEAL. What I find are, little tags that say NEIL, which is really not my name if I see it. So I'm always looking for a little tag to talk about, my name. Well, Bella reminded me that her name can be found in the dog tag section. So I don't know if that's a good thing, but at least it's visible there. But it was wonderful because it really connects us to talk about our names, who named us, how do we feel about our names, how do we feel when people mispronounce our names, how do we class names, how do we gender names, all of those kinds of things. And even the movement into pronouns where people are saying, I don't want to go into that non-binary stuff, but that's a naming also. And then our this week, we had a program on Islamophobia. That was from the burning of a mosque in Victoria, Texas, right after the travel ban came during the previous administration. That was a provocative conversation that had lots of folks there. Barry Smith was there. I think Barry's on the line. And then the last program we'll have, and these were in person, is one on dispelling the myths, the deaf, the hard of hearing, and the deafblind. And notice that each of those semesters, you should see the consistency of our service Saturdays. Our service Saturdays there during the spring, service Saturdays there during the summer, service Saturdays there during the fall. And I'll talk a lot about that also. I'll talk about that now. Service Saturday is our homeless outreach, and this has brought such joy to folks. In fact, so many people who have invested in Project Humanities have come through the homeless outreach. And so many partnerships are connected with this that we've done biweekly at the downtown Human Services campus. And I'll give you some data on who our clients are, but we've seen an increase since the pandemic of clients. And I love the fact that what you see here is a combination of folks from all across the Valley, students, it's intergenerational. That's the truck that Barry's standing in on the bottom left that we load every 2 weeks, take down, set up a pop-up market. And while we may not be changing the world, we're offering one bit of kindness to clients who come through. And we have developed a community. The pictures that you're seeing, the bottom left, is on Friday sorting that we do every single Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Everybody's welcome. We get the donations that come in and we sort them according to season, size, roughly gender, so that people feel like they're actually shopping, maybe not in Nordstrom's, but in our little pop-up market. And thank you all for bringing folks to this event. Can tell you we've had some great partnerships and still do, with the Arizona College of Nursing, with the Phi Iota chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, with Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, Boys Team Charity, just to name a few, Midwestern University here. The fraternities guys that you see in purple there, we are benefiting from their annual Souls to Souls, which is a shoe drive. And then we have Sun Devil Fitness Center for Lost and Found. And we have an Amazon wish list, and we are still begging people for pants now that it's gotten cooler, and for backpacks. And I'm telling you all that's because if you don't know somebody, then you may know somebody who knows somebody that could contribute to this, and you don't have to be here for this. You can donate any number of ways toward that effort. Our sweet spot for volunteers is about 50 to 70, and we hit that most of the time, but not all of the time. And I will say our highest has been about 100, and that felt like it was too many. But we loved having volunteers. The AZ Spartans from the Michigan State, they have been partners as well. You may not be able to read this, but people ask, for example, and this is not scientific, and I know our engineers out there who do these things, Mike, would be more specific than we are. When we have enough volunteers, we try to get demographic details on our clients. This is not to be invasive, but to give you a better sense for grant purposes, who we are trying to support. And just so that you know, I guess this was a comparison between when we started in January for this year. We interviewed about 70 people standing in line, waiting to be shoppers. We supported about 165. And most of them, as you can see in this instance, are between 56 and 60. They're mostly from Arizona. About half of them have been incarcerated. And most of them do not have a military history. We also try to figure out what their immediate needs are. And we don't necessarily commit to doing that, but we can try to connect people with other organizations who do. If you look on the right side, we had a total of 215 clients. These are not necessarily unique clients. And we had about 87 people in the line who actually talked to us, and we asked them these questions. They don't have to answer them, but it allows us to engage with those folks. And that has been an interesting, but we can, in addition to what we do, because it sort of talks to people and not pretend that people are invisible or that we don't care about their stories. We don't pry and we don't judge. And I'll move quickly for those who joined us. We'll have conversation after I get through the slides. We started since the anniversary, which was 2021, and some of the funding that we used in that fundraising went toward Undergraduate Research Ambassadors Program. That is a program essentially that selects students. At the moment, we've had 3 iterations. This is our 3rd this year. We select students in the fall based on an application process that is pretty detailed. And what's different about this is that undergraduates lead the research project. At many institutions, faculty members lead the research and then students follow. But in this case, the students lead the research and they choose a faculty member to support them. And what is particularly, I think, interesting to this group is that we have been able to support with a small stipend both the student as well as the faculty member. And so those investments of monies go into some of that ambassadors program. We can talk specifically the range of programs or the projects. One person talked about gender-specific burnout and compassion and fatigue during COVID-19. That's in the middle slide or the middle poster. Another talked specifically about decreased enrollment of African American and Latinx males in post-secondary education. Another student on the right, just last spring, did an ESL digital literacy project. Another talked about Title IX in Pac-12 schools, caregiver advocacy, and autism and policing. So the same thing that we're doing in our programs, we are trying to mentor this next generation of people who may not be English majors or humanities majors who will support our efforts. And we do have a showcase because they do their research, but then they have a virtual showcase so that you all can see them. We work, but there's also play. The Barbie movie made a big old stir for a lot of folks, and we all went to the Barbie movie. Some people dressed up. I wore a pink bandana. And afterwards, we went to an Indian restaurant and talked about it. And from that discussion came 3 blogs that you're welcome to look at based on at our website under blog tab. Critique So Plastic, It's Not Fantastic. There's another one from a community member who went with us, The Importance of Symbolism and Cultural Identity in a Diverse Society. And then the Barbie movie, Just My Take. So we are trying to have fun, but we also do lots of stuff. I guess the biggest development since and again, I'll share this afterwards, so don't feel like you have to take notes. I'm just giving you a sense that we've been doing a lot of stuff. We update you in newsletters, we update you in emails, but there needs to be some way that we can all chat, and we'll do that in the second half of this. One of the biggest new developments that we had in Project Humanities is sort of resurrecting and evolving an advisory council. That advisory council is made up of investors, who are founders. And the purpose we've outlined in this approved charter is to build a robust humanity and justice-focused community of individuals and groups who value and promote education, service, and entrepreneurship. The entrepreneurship comes in with our Hacks for Humanity. We also want to be a leader in local, national, and international discussions regarding the value of humanities and humanities study, and encouraging broad thinking and practices across disciplines, communities, ages, and professions. That's what we do, and that's what this advisory committee is committed to doing. The objective is to implement improved communications and activities to better and consistently engage you, our Humanity 101 founders, our volunteers, students, and communities, to ensure a consistent pool of volunteer resources for homeless outreach, Hacks for Humanity, and our monthly events. And that's going to be critical to what I'm going to call our action items after this at the end of the meeting. And then to build and maintain a pipeline of community, culture, and professional leaders ready to engage with key resources. And I'll be asking you the extent to which you'd like to be connected with this advisory council. If you know you'd like to now, please put that in the chat, but we can talk more about this at the end. And within that, let me just say, within that advisory council, we do have some subcommittees. One is a fundraising subcommittee, and Terry McKibben, who's on the line, will be talking a little bit about some opportunities there. And we have an operations committee that is being led by Barry Smith and Mike James, who are also on the line. All right, so this is to help me do stuff, because I recognize that I may be the face of this, but so many of you have stories to help bring other people to this so that we become, separate as the fingers, yet one as the hand. The hackathon was our 10th one. Those are the folks up there. It's not everybody. Those are the people there at the top left who was there on the Sunday afternoon. Other people came on Friday. Some other people came on Saturday, and we only took this group picture at the end when all the awards and things had been announced, just so that we did it at Sky Song in Scottsdale. It was only in person this time. We had tried virtual and hybrid. There are a lot of moving parts for hybrid. We thought we would go back in person. I thought the turnout was actually pretty good. Overall, we had 100 people participating. A little over half of those actually were competitors. So if you'll look here in the right-hand side of the screen, we had about 55 participants across 12 teams. There were 7 sponsors, and you can see the sponsors here: State Farm, Puffin West, which is a foundation, ASU Police, I believe Chief Thompson is on the line, Northrop Grumman, Celtic Properties. There was an anonymous sponsor, as well as ASU's E&I. That shows you the range. I'll say State Farm has been a sponsor for the last probably 7 years and have exceeded what we have asked for in those sponsorship levels. We've had the supporters are those who provide tickets to Desert Botanical Garden, to the Phoenix Museum, to other places that become part of these raffle experiences, so that everything is not about the coding. Everything is not about coming in and coming up with a product that has to go to market the next day, but it's also about experience of networking and connecting with folks. We had 4 speakers, workshops on these areas here: fashion, disability/ableism, and animals. That's what the teams competed. We didn't give them an assignment. We gave them a topic. We had 14 mentors, 8 volunteers. The mentors are experts in the area who come and advise about building a website. They advise about pitching. Everybody has to do a 3 to 5 minute pitch. And all of that is to give people a more well-rounded experience. The winners are down here. It's also on our website, an education app for childhood development, particularly picking up disabilities, not diagnostically, but to kind of underscore when there's been something that perhaps a parent hasn't or guardian or adult hasn't noticed until that child was playing with something, and then you notice these patterns of inefficiencies. There was another one that dealt with translating, fostering deaf hearing communication, another connecting people with disabilities to service animals, and then speech to image app enhancing inclusivity in video calls. Lots of undergraduates, so we'd really like to see more in these other areas, particularly the professionals and the grads. High schoolers, we're going to rethink that high school participation. It sounds good, but there have been some challenges with that. The winners were from these areas: engineers, exploratory, biotechnology, double major, computer science. The mentors came from different areas: insurance, they were students, chemical, engineering, was an author, finance. And then the volunteers came from all walks of life, from a librarian to a finance person. Okay, and there we are smiling. And I want to just see if we can, because I've got about, let's see, because I want to stop. Yep, got about 5 minutes. Let's see. This is our little recap video that gives you a sense of what it was like to be there, I hope.
We're currently at our 10th annual Hacks for Humanity held by ASU Project Humanities, and I'm here with
Bill Maher.
Perfect. And I just have a couple questions for you. So my first one is, what brought you to this year's Hacks for Humanity?
Oh, for the great food. This food in this hackathon is amazing. So they really keep us coming back. But also, the energy here is really good.
What do you think sets this year's Hacks for Humanity event apart from other hackathons?
Well, this hackathon is very unique in that it's for the humanities. It lets everybody in, not just a bunch of nerds. The thing here is to really get as many diverse people as possible. So you get a lot of opportunities to talk to people that they'll never hang around with you at for what you're trying to do. And also come to a thing like this, you get to learn like new things. Like I saw stuff that I did not see coming in terms of what would happen. So it just kind of keeps you on your toes. You get to see, not just new people, but people that you never deal with. And so, that's kind of cool,
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And that person, by the way, who was being interviewed, this was his 3rd hackathon with us, and this was our 10th. So we're very excited when we can have people come back and participate with us. The last thing that I want to show is and this is where we'll talk now. Once I've given you all this stuff, I'm going to stop.
Our first speaker today is.
No, we're not going to go into that. So we'll stop there because I want us to sort of chat now about founders. And part of this meeting is, first of all, to give you an update, which I did, but I didn't give you a chance to talk about or ask any questions. We can do that. But I want us to focus on, why did you become a founder? How are you connected, and how can we grow our support in terms of founder investments of time, talent, and treasure? And then give you a few action items, but I want to give you a chance to sort of chat with me about any questions that you have, and share with others how and why you are connected with the project. And feel free to turn your videos on now, because this is our chat. And that was perfectly timed, because I wanted to do that for 30 minutes and then we would chat for 30 minutes. So bring your videos back on and let's chat. And if you don't feel like talking, you're welcome to put it in the chat, quite literally. All right. So my first question is why did you become a founder, and why and how does Project Humanities matter to you? And we don't want everybody to talk at once, but I want everybody to sort of hear others in terms of why you are investing and how you are investing in Project Humanities. And thank you all. I see people from Texas and Minnesota and all kinds of places. So who wants to start?
I can start. Hi, Dr. Lester.
Hi.
It's great seeing you. It's Bella.
Hi, Bella.
for everybody else, I mentioned it in the chat. I used to be a student worker at Project Humanities back in 2015, 2016. During my time in the project, I feel like I learned a lot of things about stereotyping, where how we unconsciously may stereotype different things. And I remember my time at the project, every day we always had a very interesting conversation about different topics, about like cultural appropriation, about the words we use, about how we need to be mindful of the words we use. And I learned a lot of things that you don't learn on a day-to-day basis in school. So ever since I graduated from Arizona State, of course, I stopped working at the project. I moved to other states, and I currently reside in California. But as I progress in my career, I always think about the things I learned from Dr. Lester in the project. And I remember one of the times, one of my managers that I did not get along with, but he asked me, Bella, do you have any feedback for me? And I told him, I think you need to think more or be more mindful about the words you choose when talking to people, because words can be very impactful, more than you think. And I just thought about Dr. Lester the whole time. So I became a founder because Dr. Lester has had a huge impact in my life. And we continue to keep in touch.
Well, thank you, Bella. And what did you major in, Bella? Because I want people to know that also.
Oh yeah, I majored in finance.
Yeah, and you worked for
my first job at a college. Yes. I actually interned with Goldman Sachs when I was a student worker at Project Humanities. I graduated college and I went full-time to Goldman Sachs. I left Goldman Sachs because I didn't like it. And then I moved to San Francisco and I currently work for YouTube.
Yes. Well, and Bella and her new husband, Leo, are both founders. And congratulations, Bella, who just got married in October. So happy newlywed, Bella.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I was very surprised to see your name on the guest list. Thank you. And yeah, all right. Someone else. Thank you. Bill, I see your hand, and then I see Mike James. Yeah, Bill.
Yeah, I just want to say that how I joined is that I see that some of your work, Dr. Lester, is similar to what Gandhi was doing. You know, you just blow your way into the reality. You figure you'll get your path and you don't stop. And so all I really participate in is I love to share a little bit of my money, because now at 77, I don't get too involved physically, but I love the work you're doing, and I know it's affecting thousands of students. And that's what's really, really important. So thank you.
Thank you. Mike James, I think I saw a hand from you.
Yeah, actually, the hand was an applause for Bella getting married.
Okay.
But I would be glad to talk also. I used one of the reactions down below. So
okay. All right. You did.
With that too.
Yes.
So I guess I got involved, and my wife Terry got involved, actually from a person walking down the street in my neighborhood. And a gentleman by the name of John Hedblum, who was already connected with Neil and was helping with the sorting and the marketplace. And I'd seen an article in the newspaper, and I just mentioned it to him, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'm working with Neil." And that was a year and a half ago, and that was my initial connection. Just because I thought the idea of outreach centered around humanity, instead of something maybe religious, maybe connected to a group that's can be disparate across what we see, just for the sheer humanity of it, was really enticing to me. And as Neil knows, I've kind of jumped in and I've been involved in the operation side, you know, to the point of looking at the current operation we have. You certainly are 100% right and I've got some charts I haven't shared with Neil yet, but we've had a steady increase in the number of clients that we've served. In the 2016 range, we are in the 100-ish number. In the 2020, we're probably 150. And then we've seen a very marked change in the number of people actually as of May 2023. And that's actually because of the zone, the cleanup, and the human services campus increase in number of beds that they allow. So right now we're probably averaging in the area of 200 clients every marketplace. And so one of the things we're discovering is the current process with our current resources that come in is probably outstripping the process for the number of clients that we have. So I've been working with Terry and Barry and a whole group of advisors, about 13 people, to try and study the process, look at the process, and then understand the supply chain side of it. Because clearly there's a supply chain side to this. So as an engineer, I find that quite interesting, but as a human, I really enjoy the outreach, and I've learned more than I would ever learn from reading any article about homelessness and what it really looks like, what it embodies. So that's the part that I find it's interesting, it's humbling, it's satisfying, it's frustrating. It's got all the ings, got a lot of ings to it, but it's definitely a lot of fun. And Neil certainly is a inspiration and a spark plug to all this. So I want to try and offload him. That's my goal, is to offload him from some of the work that he does, because he certainly is the visionary for all of Project Humanities, which covers, many more things besides operations.
Right. I want to have one more share, because then I want to talk specifically about what we can do to recruit more volunteers, what we can do, and sort of give you the benefits of being a founder beyond the kinds of feel-good things that I've heard people talk about, because there has to be more that keeps you connected, because you could be doing this, you can feel good doing other things with other people. So I think, Marlena, I saw your hand, and then we'll go into sort of some conversation specifically about why a founder, why become a founder, and how you can share that story with others and sort of increase the potential reach and impact.
Okay, I'll keep it brief. I did initially become actively involved with Project Humanities online, communicating with Dr. Lester, and a lot of it was during COVID. So I was at home, and this helped me to stay connected with other people, a diverse group of people. And I did attend a variety of events. I haven't been on site working with the project, the homeless aspect, but I look forward to being able to do that at some point. But I will say the pledge drew me in distinctly. And I was an English major and an educator full-time. So all of that, it just all kind of dovetailed. It made sense for me to be a part of the group. And I was there when we had the anniversary, so I was able to participate in judging the poetry contest.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways people can be pulled in and utilize their skills, and I felt that. And unfortunately, I'm not driving to all of these other events, but as you said, you want to expand, and there are other ways we can connect, but I do want to do at least some of the in-person when I can.
Thank you. And that's a wonderful segue into kind of first of all, what is a founder? Just so that you know that. And just for though that we're branding this correctly, you are not founders of Project Humanities, because I've seen people out there saying Project Humanities founder. Nope, 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 nope. You're not a Project Humanities founder. You're a Humanity 101 founder under the umbrella of Project Humanities. And Project Humanities is under the umbrella of ASU, which is a not-for-profit organization. So therefore, those monetary donations are in fact tax deductible. So we're not over existing by ourselves independently. But fundamentally, this is how it worked. Instead of going to bigger donors, that was harder to do. It was much easier when we started this probably 10 years ago, was to go to more donors for smaller amounts. And the amount that we hit upon, and this was in work with the ASU Foundation that monitors our monies when they come in. Founders are individuals or organizations who invest at least $1,000 in Project Humanities programming. Sometimes people earmark it where it goes. Some people say, I just want to give it to you. I trust you to do what needs to be done. I can tell you that that money goes most of that those donations that come in go toward the homeless outreach, and that is because the clothes, the toiletries, the shoes that we give to our clients, those are considered gifts. And as the state institution, we can't give gifts. Now, if somebody wins a hackathon, then they have done something in order to earn that. So that's a very different way that that money works. Okay. So the money that comes in, I am going to Goodwill multiple times a week. Some of you who have been there, you see the tags on things. That is where that money is going. And we have been monitoring this by months. Terry McKibben, who's our finance subcommittee leader, I've shared that we have something like, $3,000 a month to supplement those things that come in. There are certain things that don't come in. Nobody submits soap. Nobody donates deodorant in the way that you would donate clothing. We do have an Amazon wish list. So just so that you know, that's where the bulk of that money goes. That money also goes when there's a death in the family, when somebody has been sick, and there's a need for flowers. So none of that money that comes in philanthropically goes to anybody's salaries. It doesn't go to anything else except back to those stakeholders, in this case, the homeless outreach. The sponsorships, the State Farm, the Northwood Grumman, all those, the ASU Police, that is specific to the hackathon. So that is where the person says, I saw all the food. That was so that we could have food from Friday evening through Sunday afternoon. And I would not have to go to Einstein's and get their day-old bagels and then go to Whole Foods and get cream cheese and then get up at 4 o'clock to chop them and do all that. So, and I've done that, stuff out of the back of my car and trying to save, but it was too exhausting for us trying to do that. So we went out and essentially begged people for donations, and that's how those come in. So I just want to keep those straight. We can always talk about these later, but I just wanted to clarify that. So that's where the money is going. What do you get as beyond the feel goods that many of you talked about? First of all, you get a lifetime distinction as a founder, and that may have challenged some people to say, well, I've given once, so I don't have to give again. So we want there to be a recommitment so that we sustain this, and Terry McKibben will talk about that in about 3 minutes. But we also give you VIP access to our special guest. We've had Nora McInerney, who is very popular with talking about toxic positivity. That had 800 virtual people during the pandemic. We also, as Marlena mentioned, had Dr. Bernice A. King, who runs the King Center in Atlanta, but who is also doing work in her own right to talk about a beloved community. As a result of that relationship, I've been invited twice to sit on their MLK summits because they really resonate, those at the center, with our Humanity 101 principles. But there were people, the founders got to meet with her virtually before the big event. That happened with Bell Hooks, that happened with Ruth Pointer, that happened with Jane Elliott. We do a special reception. So that's one privilege. Then you get publicly acknowledged on our Project Humanities events. We've got a banner that shows up at the hackathon. It's in our office, so your names are there if you wanted your names there. Some people want to be anonymous. It's also on our website. And then this, I think, is an important part where you, Marlena, has come in and eBay has come in because programming can grow out of ideas that you have. Marlena has a sister who does her own farming and in Mesa, I believe. And no, it's not Mesa, Santan Valley. Yes. And we talked about food sovereignty. And so having the sister on the panel came through Marlena. We've also had Michelle Michaels, who will be one of our investors, who is leading the effort for the deaf blind, the hard of hearing, and the deaf blind that happens at the end of this semester. Jim Tootin is one of our investors who gave us a significant grant to do a series of parenting conversations. So eBay was a judge for the hackathon. Others have been panelists. I think Chief Thompson has been a panelist on some education panels that we had. And Terry McKibben has been a mentor. Gina Lebens has been a volunteer. Sophia. So everybody has done something if that's how you want to be involved. And that's what we want to sort of open this up so that we don't have to make the decisions now, but you'll reach out to us and say, this is how I'd like to stay connected. This is like, I'd like to be engaged and engage with the project. We also know that people don't want to necessarily be bombarded with assignments, but we want to give you the option of doing more if you want to do more. Okay, is that clear? So it's not complicated to become a founder, but there are ways in which, Terry McKibben, you reminded me that people who, and maybe I'll just let you come in, Terry, and sort of talk, because you and I had this conversation and you were in part how we got this advisory started, and especially this focus on founders. So you want to take just a few minutes to talk?
Yeah, I'll just take a second. So I became a founder because the founder asked me to become a founder. So Gina Lebens is on this call. She's the reason why I showed up, and that's the grassroots. That's what a grassroots program is. And the more we can invite more people who genuinely want to be a part of this amazing process and community, please invite more people to be part of this. That we are serving more people every month, and far more than we probably had ever hoped would need our help. And those numbers aren't going to go down. So we do need more friends and family members to become friends and family members of this community, if you will. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to connect. However, it's best for you to connect. There's no wrong way to connect. I'm on the fundraising and finance side of things. And after you're going to expect to see something like this. It's called an Innovative Impact. It is put out by the ASU Foundation, which we are under that umbrella. And you'll see when you get it, right in the middle on page 16, there's this lovely, lovely chart that will go through the different ways of giving. Everything obviously from cash donations, but there's creative gifting, whether it's through your estate, insurance policies, your investments. And we can't give you any kind of advice, but we do recommend that you do talk to your CPAs or your attorneys, however you manage that, because there are opportunities for folks that do benefit from donating on your taxes and through your legacy, and making sure that there's a part of you that you're leaving for the community that you're serving now, if you wish. So that's a lovely way. There's some folks out here that aren't retired and you are working, and it is benefit package time, and your employer matches dollars. So if you donated $50 a month just automatically. That's an automatic $600 a year gifted to Project Humanities. And some employers match it. So you would actually be giving $1,200 from your instead of $600 with those dollars. So we're just making sure that we're not leaving anything on the table that could benefit our programs, but also, allowing you any opportunity you want to give, that it's there for you. So that's what I had, Dr. Lester.
Well, and keep in mind, that was why we did the first part of this, to say this is where your investment goes. This
Well, it is.
This is what we're doing. And so many people have sort of gravitated toward one thing, and that is perfectly fine.
Sure.
But we just want you to know that we're not just doing one thing. That's sort of the ASU brand. ASU does not do one thing, and Chief Thompson knows that. We are swirling around, but it's all connected, though. And if the homeless outreach is your thing, then you do that. But know that we also have this hackathon, which is somebody else's thing. That's an annual event. And what I like about these is there's no one way to participate in any of these. And we will be alternating so that some programs are in person, some things are in virtual, because I see my friend Ethel Carter is joining us from, are you in Chicago now? I see Ravine joining us from Texas. So there's a way in which this can become a movement and a community, and you don't have to be local. And there is accountability when things come through the foundation. You get your tax deductible receipt for that. But we also have people like, founder Cynthia Hardy, who brought a whole bunch of clothes last week with a whole lot of pants that we needed. And then others show up to help us sort that. And E.R. Alexander, who is my neighbor, is very consistently bringing donations from her and her mom and all the people that they know, and leaving them on my porch. And then we're bringing them up to the sorting, and has been out also. So I hope that you see that there are all kinds of ways. There's no single way to do this, but I do know that in order to do the work that we do, we need resources. And sometimes people are setting up resources based on, connecting us with somebody that they know, who can host an event in their location. So let me just hear if there are any questions beyond what we've talked about so far in terms of how do we recruit more founders, and how do we engage you if you want to be more actively engaged.
Dr. Lester, I had a quick question.
Sure, Chief Thompson.
Hi, everyone. Is there any connection, and I don't know if there is or not, but is there any connection where people could, at the university, if they're asked to donate through United Way, is there a way that those funds can be filtered back towards Project Humanities?
That I can check on. No one has asked that. We are part of the Giving Tuesday, but we tend to be sort of overwhelmed, because I remind you that we are a very small operation. Some of those who have worked closely with us through advisory committee know that there are 3 staff members. We just hired a third one, full-time staff members, and me. And keep in mind that Project Humanities is only 70% of my faculty workload. The other part is I teach, and I also write books and articles and do community presentations. So there's a way in which we can find out about that in terms of the United Way. But I'm so committed to this work, and I tell people that I personally have not done anything that was more satisfying and gratifying. I can write a book that people may or may not read, an article that people may or may not read, an interview, but there's something about this work that we do collectively that has nourished me, and that's why I keep doing it. That's a long-winded response to your question. We'll find out. But I want this to be about us and the work that we are doing together. However you feel comfortable doing that work. But it is work. It is work, because you could be doing other things with your time, talent, and treasure. So we'll make sure that we find that out with Terry McKibben.
Yeah, we'll find that out. I gotta know.
Yes. Somebody else. Marlene, are you raising your hand?
Yes, I had a
Okay.
question about Hacks for Humanity.
Yes.
I have participated in that when it was virtual,
Mhm.
and I really enjoyed it. And it appeared there were people, as you said, from other states and so on at that point. So I'm just curious, how are you rethinking how to do it next time?
Well, it's a year off. We're thinking about how to manage that as either 1 year in person, 1 year virtual, or if we want to do it hybrid. And the reality is that when we did it hybrid last year, there were so many moving parts, it was near dizzying. And the person who led that has gone to graduate school. And we're very excited about the fact that she and her spouse are doing that. But there's nobody on the staff who can actually architect, who can build that a virtual component. And they're trying to match time zones across the globe, the hemispheres. That is way more challenging. Plus, keep in mind, we're trying to ease out of COVID. So we're trying to get people back in person. And so that was what our decision was this time. So no decision has been made about that in terms of what format it will be in. We just know that we'll be doing the 11th one in October, and we already have the dates for that. Yeah. I'm glad that you enjoyed it and want to do it again. And we do have possibilities that people don't have to be on site as a mentor, because we did have some virtual mentors this time, and mentors bring a certain expertise, et cetera. Okay. Other questions or observations? Because we'll follow up. We just wanted to put it out there so that you would know, first of all, we don't forget you. And it's not about writing a check once and then we don't connect with you again. So we need some very specific strategies on how we're going to share this story and how we're going to recruit other folks and build this into a movement that it needs to be, with still so much happening in the world.
Neil, I have a question. It's
Yes,
Jeff Green. So how do we contact those folks that were on this call that maybe we want to help with? Because somebody was talking about supply chain.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I'd love to work on that.
Oh my gosh.
And then Terry McKibben, I'd like to reach out to just, personally. And how do we do that without going to you all the time?
That is interesting, because that is what we're talking about, is how do we figure out, and we were going to do this with a survey, but we couldn't quite figure out what to ask, because it has to be a survey that captures a lot so that we're not sending you 10 surveys. And instead of relying on a survey, I thought I'd start this now. And if you have ideas about how we can reach out to see what expertise, what interest people have, then we can sort of harness that and make those connections. But this was a first start toward doing that. Terry, McKibben, you want to respond to that a little bit?
Yeah, you can give permission to have your contact information released to either myself or Mike or to whomever you have interest to. And then Dr. Lester and his team can just email that over and we can reach out to you.
Right. And we're trying to avoid over emailing you and over taxing you with things. And there's a fine line between that. But I know that there's a lot of expertise on here. And I know that we're not asking you to do stuff that you're unprepared and unwilling to do, because you've shown up to this point that you are doing it. You're at this meeting now.
Yeah, I think Barry and I look forward to seeing your email, Jeff. There's lots of good things that we've been identifying, looking at, and would love your expertise.
Right.
Sure. Love to.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm also going to say, for our folks that are national and across the US, we are also involved in getting grants for the programs in Project Humanities. So if it's an employer grant that you know about, or if you have connections, you'd be surprised who writes grants and have a philanthropic side to them. And we love pennies. We'll take your pennies too. So we'll take all those pennies from wherever they fall. But we'll also make requests, because we do have a corporate sponsor for socks for our service staff. There are other green certified and other matching companies like Tom's and others that we're reaching out to gain other types of materials for Service Saturday, because as our numbers go up, those costs also go up, and we need to see how we can do more of that for our clients.
Well, and here's another little piece to that. Not just the homeless outreach,
No.
but we also created that ambassadors program, which rewards students doing social justice research, and they're sort of mentoring. But we are trying to figure out how we can also offer some modest compensation for our interns. Interns, there feels like there's an exploitive part of that when you're asking people to come in and do quote unquote work, and they get credit, but not. There's one intern who has been with us for 4 years. And I think about this now that the intern is now a first-year student who is driving his car back and forth down to the site and has agreed to take people to the events. And there has to be some way that we can offer a modest honorarium to those interns, not just to incentivize, but also not to feel like we're exploiting people for volunteer. And I'm not talking about volunteers who come and do this, because we do that on our own, but I'm talking about the young students. Some of these are high school students, and gas is gas for them too. And they don't have electric cars. And so I'm trying to think of a lot of these things, but I need more people to help me think through these. So funding for internships, that's what was used when we did the anniversary. This is not the first one. I said we'd stay for an hour. I want this to kind of get your wheels moving so that you can follow up with me. And I'll share the recording of this with those who were not able to attend. But I just want you to know that I appreciate you and that I haven't forgotten about you. And it's not a matter of getting stuff and not being appreciative of those people who are doing all kinds of things based on where they are and what their level of engagement. So 3 things I want to know: if you want to be more engaged and how. If you're interested in that advisory committee, let me know. I picked people who indicated that they were interested and willing. It's not a significant engagement, but it is an engagement. I have to thank Terry James, who is the spouse of Mike James, for leading this foundational, getting that charter together so that we can then launch. But that foundation work was incredibly meticulously done by Terry James. So we thank Terry James. If you'll pass that on, if Terry is not in the room with you, Mike James, and others who have stepped up doing this as a labor of love. We appreciate you, but we need you to help us go out and bring more people, tell the story. And if they see what you're doing and how you're connected, then it's easy to get other people. And then there's simple things. If you're traveling, take your button, take a picture with it, send it back to us. And we put that in our faces and places. Wear a t-shirt. If you don't have a t-shirt, I'll give you a t-shirt. We want to be everywhere, and we are mapping where people are across the globe. Even if you're going to a different state, you're going on vacation, take that hand and start that conversation with folks. Okay. Dr. Ibe.
Yeah, I just want to know, can you say more about the advisory committee?
What more would you like to know about it?
Well, it was not quite clear specifically what they will be doing. So,
well, the first iteration of the advisory committee was to establish, or we've learned to establish a charter, and I went over those details about the purpose, why we were doing it, and a kind of timeline of just establishing the foundation so that everything we do is somehow connected to the principles of Project Humanities. The purpose, remember the purpose, the objectives, and essentially, if you're asking the logistics of that, we meet monthly virtually. An agenda is passed out, and then we publish the minutes, and then we have subcommittees. Right now, there are 2 subcommittees. One is finance that Terry McKibben is leading, and fundraising. And then the other, and there's several members, not several, but there are a handful of people on that. We could use more. We could use 2 more. Terry McKibben is on that.
Sophia?
D.L. White is on that. Sophia Holloway is on that. And Mary Cruz Jacobson just got added to that, expressed interest. We also have an operations committee that is led by Barry Smith, and co-led by Barry Smith and Mike James. And we are in need of a communications committee. And we don't have anybody who has stepped up with interest in that, because I'm just announcing it now. So what more would you like to know? I think Terry James said something like, as we're talking about a succession plan, we want to talk about the advisors having perhaps term limits, so that there's new ideas, but also consistency. And we'll be presenting that once the advisory committee approves that, then we will present that to the larger body here. That's what the advisory committee is. It is to take some of the things so that everything is not in my head and it doesn't feel like I am Project Humanities, but rather we are Project Humanities.
Okay, I'm interested then.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have the month of December off because Dr. Lester needs some time and sanity for himself to just take a break from all of us too, I'm sure. And the holidays, of course, for all of the holidays during that period. So more of that will be done after the first of the year. But I've taken note of the 3 people that have expressed interest in the chat.
Right.
We'll make that 4.
Yes.
And so we will be able to contact you with more information later.
Right. And that was actually Terry McKibben's idea about having a council, because she says, how are you doing all this? And I don't know whether that was a signal that I wasn't doing it very efficiently.
No.
Okay. And that I needed help.
Not at
I'm
all.
joking. I'm joking. But
I adore and love him. People know that. This is, yeah, but
what I know is that there is no success without collaboration. That is what I do know. And we have had partnerships, and you are partners, and we are going to do the work however we can. But there's so much good energy and goodwill that we want to spread this to others. And I can tell you, this is so invigorating when there's so much happening in the world over which we have no control. But this is a piece of something that we feel like we're doing stuff, and we're seeing the reach and the impact. And that's what sustains me. And it's 7:05. If there's anything that you want me to know in the chat, please don't leave yet, because I've got one final thing that I want to show you, and that will be the end. So we will be out of here by 7:11. Okay. So any other details, put them in the chat. I'll go over the chat afterwards, but I want to make sure that you get to see this last part here. Okay. And so again, there's the reiteration. I talked to you about the VIP access, the public recognition, the insider participation. I'll share this after the event. Please sign the pledge if you haven't. I put it in the chat. Attend our programs, recruit more founders. There's a QR code. You can do that right now. Support the homeless outreach, volunteers, donations, connect with the Hacks for Humanity. Marlena, it'll be October 11th through 13, 2024. That's a Friday through Sunday. We'll figure out how to do it again. It's late. It was our Humanity 101 theme song, and I'll share that. I enjoyed it again, but I can tell you it makes me sad, because as I looked over those scenes from the various events that we've had, at least 6 of those people are no longer with us. And it reminds us of the preciousness of the time that we have together. So let's do the best we can to do better and to be better. So thank you for your patience. And I will figure out, it's our theme song. There are legal issues as to why I can't share it broadly, but I'll figure out how to get it to you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reach out to me at any point so that we can continue this work that we do best by doing it together. Thank you, and good evening, good morning, goodness.
Thank you, Dr. Lester.
Thank you.
Very, very welcome. Thank you, and congratulations again, Bella.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Neil.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you.